Hey there, I'm Rob, and what you're looking at here is my magic cheese. You're probably wondering, what the heck is magic cheese? And how is it going to help me land my dream job in as little as 14 days? So stick with me and watch this short presentation, and I'll explain everything. First, I want you to imagine something. Imagine waking up one morning and walking over to your computer and opening your email and finding an inbox full of messages from company executives thanking you for contacting them, although curious as to how you got their contact information in the first place, and all requesting a job interview with you. And what if these emails represented a better than 50% response rate from the messages that you had sent out just a day or two earlier? Now, if you're anything like the 99.9% of job seekers out there diligently contacting employer after employer, you may be saying to yourself, impossible. And you'd be right, based on the type of messages that 99.9% of job seekers are sending to employers. As a matter of fact, you'd be lucky to get any response at all. You see, in order to stand out and get noticed and have employers falling all over themselves to speak with you about scheduling an interview, you have to use the right approach, directed at the right person. And your messages have to include one very important thing: your magic cheese. It's something I discovered back in the late 90s that I, and now countless others, have used to land a desirable job in an amazingly short amount of time, typically around 14 days. And it's the solution that you came here looking for today. It all came about as a result of a time when I suddenly found myself in a situation that may be very similar to the one you're in now, thanks to the myth I believed in called job security, along with the unemployment Armageddon that occurred back when the late 90s dot-com bubble burst. I found myself, along with thousands of others, in the ranks of the unemployed and in the midst of one of the toughest job markets in recent history, almost as bad as the brutal job market of today. Sadly for me at the time, I believed that my fancy resume and my impressive work experience would be all I needed to quickly land on my feet in an even better situation. Boy, was I wrong. I'd quickly become nothing more than a commodity, and for every position that I pursued, there were 100 others just like me, all competing for the same position. Maybe you've had a similar experience. To make a long, painful story short, I had to struggle and go without income for nearly a year and almost lose everything, including the roof over my head and my family, before the answer to my bleak situation finally appeared. I remember it like it was yesterday, walking into my dark, empty, and mortgaged-to-the-hilt house and finding 2 pieces of paper laying on the kitchen table. I walked over to pick them up, and it was then, right there in that moment, that it happened. My worst fears had been realized. Rock bottom had just moved clearly into sight for me. The first piece of paper was a foreclosure notice from the bank. Well, that's just what I need, I thought to myself. Now I'm about to lose the roof over my head. But it was the second piece of paper that really got me. The second was a note from my wife. It simply said, "I can't do this anymore. We've gone to stay with my mother." My heart began to pound out of my chest, and my stomach felt like it was up in my throat to the point I couldn't even breathe. Now I was losing my family? I felt like I was completely underwater, drowning in a fear of loneliness, desperation, and complete and utter disappointment in myself. I was literally gasping for air. Finally, after a few minutes, I pulled myself together somewhat and tried to gather my thoughts, and it was right then and there that I made a vow. I made a promise to God, a declaration, that I would rectify that situation, and I would do it right then and there, for once and for all, and never ever let it happen again. I vowed to do whatever it took to right the ship, or I would die trying. I turned to walk into the living room and start brainstorming my plan, and it was like God himself had heard my vow and had placed the answer that I so desperately needed directly in front of me. And it came from the most unlikely of places and in the most unexpected form. Lying there on the floor beside the coffee table were several crudely stapled together pieces of construction paper. As I looked closer, I realized it was the art project my daughter had been working on the night before. She had told me all about it last night, but I was so preoccupied with my own problems that her words had just gone in one ear and out the other. You see, today was her first day of preschool, and she had decided that she wanted to make sure that her teacher paid special attention to her and that she stood out above all the other students. So she decided to create an art presentation about who she was, with all kinds of fun little details like her favorite color, her favorite food,